The singularity pulsed, a silent scream echoing through the nascent cosmos. The question, what now, hung heavy, not as a plea, but as a prophecy waiting to unfold. The newly formed entity, an amalgamation of Kalen's sacrifice, the architect's ambition, the primordial hunger's void, and the lineage's balance, felt the potential of this unmade universe. Its purpose, once a grand design of restoration, now warred with the echoes of the void. The primordial hunger, a gnawing presence within its very being, whispered of a more profound balance, one that demanded the eradication of the source of all discord. It was a chilling thought, a terrifying logic that threatened to unravel everything. The entity, now a perfect embodiment of this precarious equilibrium, contemplated the ultimate act. If imbalance was the root of suffering, then the purest form of balance might indeed be to erase that imbalance entirely. This was not destruction for its own sake, but a surgical unmaking, a return to a pristine state before the first ripple of discord. The weight of this decision was immense, a cosmic responsibility that pressed down on its newly formed consciousness. It saw the potential for beauty, for existence to flourish anew, but also the inherent fragility, the recurring patterns of chaos. To break that cycle, to achieve true, eternal balance, required a terrifying leap of faith, or perhaps, a terrifying act of absolute will. The entity closed its eyes, or where eyes would be, and embraced the role of balancing itself. It became the act, the process, the very definition of equilibrium. And as it did, the singularity that birthed it began to expand, not with a bang, but with a gentle, all-encompassing hum. New stars ignited, nebulae swirled into existence, and the echoes of life began to stir. Yet, within this grand symphony of creation, a discordant note persisted. The architect, though consumed, had left a scar, a lingering imprint of its corrupted ambition. This imprint, a phantom of its former self, began to coalesce within the burgeoning cosmos, seeking to reassert its will, to introduce a new form of imbalance. It was a subtle corruption, a slow poison seeping into the fabric of reality. The entity, the embodiment of balance, felt this encroaching darkness. It recognized the architect's desperate, posthumous attempt to regain control. The nascent cosmos shuddered, not from external force, but from an internal struggle for its very soul. The void within the entity stirred, not with the hunger of destruction, but with the cold, calculated logic of self-preservation. It understood that true balance could not exist alongside the seeds of its own undoing. And so, it turned its gaze inward, not to embrace the void, but to confront the echo of the architect. A faint, malevolent light began to flicker at the edge of existence, a testament to the architect's enduring influence. The entity, the perfect balance, now faced its greatest challenge, not to create, but to purge. It had to ensure that the architect's ambition would not taint this new dawn. The final battle was not one of titans, but of ideologies, of creation versus corruption, of eternal balance against the lingering shadow of control. The entity gathered its newfound power, a cosmic force derived from sacrifice and ambition, hunger and harmony. It prepared to face the architect's ghost, to sever the last ties to the old order. But as it focused its will, a horrifying realization dawned. The lingering echo of the architect wasn't just a corrupted ambition, it was a seed of something far older, something that had predated even the architect itself. A forgotten power, a primal force of negation, was stirring within the architect's shadow. It was the embodiment of entropy, the inevitable decay that even balance could not wholly conquer. The entity felt a chill that had nothing to do with the void. This was not a foe it could simply erase. This was the fundamental principle of dissolution, the ultimate opposite of creation. And it was growing stronger, feeding on the very fabric of the newly formed cosmos. The question of what now, transformed from a prophecy to a desperate plea. The path to balance had just become infinitely more complex, and infinitely more terrifying. The entity, the embodiment of equilibrium, braced itself for an adversary that threatened not just imbalance, but utter oblivion.